Ahoy there! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another ship fitting guide for EVE Echoes. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at another one of the pirate faction battleships, this time around the Sturdiest pirate's Rattlesnake. Now this absolute unit of a ship is capable of AFK soloing T10 Storyline encounters, and if you don't believe that, I've got footage at the end of this video to prove it. Yes, this ship really is that powerful. So we're going to look at what makes this ship tick, how to fit it, and then showcase it in combat at the end. And of course, because this is the first ship on this channel that we've looked at capable of using them, we're also going to have a brief look at sentry drones, what they are, and how they operate. Now as well, this video also comes with a special giveaway for you all. Haha! Yes, I have two 30-day combo Omegas to give away this week. Now, in order to win this, I want you guys to join me on Discord. The link is in the description down below. Don't just use the bit on screen, head down into the description because it's got a load of uppercase and lowercase. Come join me on Discord, look for the Combo Omega giveaway channel, and I want you to post to me your favourite kill mail. This can be one where you've lost a ship or one where you've blown up a ship, and it doesn't have to be the most expensive. I want it to be your favourite, so I want you to tell me why that kill mail is special. I want you to tell me the story of what makes that kill mail your favourite. At the end of the week, come Friday's video, I will go into that channel, I will pick my two favourite stories and kill mails there, and each of you will win a 30-day combo Omega, so good luck to you both. That said, if you do enjoy this video, let me know by hitting like on it, sub to the channel for all things EVE Echoes, and ding that notification bell so that you never miss a video when it goes live. And of course, if you are part of the notification crew, you're going to be the first people to get a head start when I do giveaways just like this. Let me know in the comment section down below what ships and topics you want me to cover in future videos, and if you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel, you can either come and join us on Patreon, details are on screen now, and every single pledge, every single dollar helps, and we have a merchandise store. So if you're looking at that Sturdiest Pirates t-shirt that I'm wearing there, the same company that printed that is now printing Catskull Academy merchandise. So you can head across there, first purchase you get 10% off your first order. That said and done then, let's talk about the Sturdiest Pirates Rattlesnake. The Sturdiest Pirates are one of the 5 pirate factions currently available in EVE Echoes alongside the Angel Cartel, the Serpentis Corporation, Blood Raider Covenant, and Sanchez Nation. Now, the Sturdiest Pirates are found mainly in and around Caldari space. That's where you'll start to see Sturdiest Pirates combat anomalies, and if you head out into nullsec areas around there like Venal, Veil of the Silent, Geminate, etc., Pure Blind, that's where you'll start to see Sturdiest Pirates dead space anomalies. If you clear a dead space anomaly with your friends, they are very difficult anomalies. Amongst the looting and the wreckage, you should be able to find some Sturdiest debris, and you can use that Sturdiest debris to reverse engineer the blueprints for the Worm, the Healer, or the Rattlesnake. Now, the Sturdiest Pirates themselves are fearless, professional, and highly organised. They operate out of their home region Venal, and unlike other rogue factions, the Sturdiest focus primarily on old-fashioned piracy, though they're not afraid of making surgical raids deep into Caldari space if they think doing so will achieve something worthwhile. Now, their backstory is actually quite interesting. They were founded by 2 Caldari state members, Jirai Fatal Leitinen and Korako the Rabbit Kosikami. Now, both of these two basically got absolutely sick and tired of being passed over for promotions and blamed for things they didn't do, so they stole a Condor-class frigate and disappeared into the lawless void between Caldari and Galente space, ultimately ending up in Venal. From there, they forged the group the Sturdiest Pirates, and interestingly enough, Sturdiest means naughty people in the Caldari native tongue. Yeah, it's really that bad. Now, the Rattlesnake obviously itself looks a lot like the Caldari Scorpion, and this is a big part of the Sturdiest Pirates backstory. There's a lot of back and forth where the Sturdiest Pirates seem to be working with the Caldari Navy, or indeed with the Ishukone organisation, and vice versa. There seem to be times when Ishukone and the Caldari Navy seem to actually be working with the Sturdiest Pirates, which causes a lot of friction and a lot of tension. There's a lot of back and forth as to who actually has the original blueprints, who has the original designs for particular ships. So even though it looks like a Scorpion and it's called a Rattlesnake, there is a lot of evidence that suggests the Rattlesnake blueprint is the original. It's then stolen and handed to the Caldari Navy, where they build the Scorpion. I don't know. It's entirely up to you and your interpretation. Anyway, enough of the backstory, let's have a look at the attributes and fittings here. So the Rattlesnake has 2 drone tubes. This can launch either small, medium or large drones. We've got 5 high slots, 3 mid slots, 7 whopping low slots, and then 3 of each of the power grid and mechanical rigs. Now, we have an insanely large power grid here, 8,058 megawatts. This is a battleship though, and obviously battleship modules use an awful lot of power grid space. The Rattlesnake is no exception. An absolutely massive tank here as well, 94,790 EHP. Most of this is on shield, 32,452, with a fairly substantial armour of 23,262 and structure of 24,329. No two ways about it, that is going to take a lot of firing through. This is one heck of a tanky ship. It's going to take a lot of beating to get through that and see one of these things explode. If we look then a little bit further down, we have fairly large capacitors, 10,768 gigajoules maximum capacitor with a recharge rate of 27.53. That's quite aggressive. That does recharge nice and quickly. Signature radius is, as you would expect, absolutely gigantic, 352.8 meters. I joke that some of the battle cruisers are like the broadside of the barn. This isn't the broadside of the barn, this is the entire freaking farm. You are not going to miss this if you try to. 103 flight velocity, obviously a very slow ship, incredibly high mass, with a fairly high inertia modifier, makes this very slow, very lumbering. This is one of those ships that is kind of the equivalent of trying to move a grand piano. It does not have a turning circle so much as it just feels like you just shift the universe around it. Scan resolution as well is absolutely abysmal. 105 meters means you are going to take an absolute age to lock onto anything smaller than a cruiser. So destroyers and frigates are going to take a long time for you to lock onto. This means sensor dampeners can actually pose a very real threat to you if you're piloting a Rattlesnake. Anyway, looking at the trait descriptions, this of course is a Gurstus Pirates ship, which means we're getting bonuses to drones and to missiles. We've got a roll bonus here, 450% increase to large drone damage, which is massive, on top of a 200% increase to the effective hit points of any large drones fitted to the Rattlesnake 2. Like with any of the other battleships as well, we get bonuses for Advanced Battleship Command and Advanced Large Weapon System, in this case Advanced Large Drone Operation. Now this is a 10% increase to large drone damage and a 10km increase to drone control range. So at Advanced Large Drone Operation 5 you've got a 50% increase to your drone damage on top of the 450% that you already have, and you get a 50km increase to drone control range. That means if you're fully training into drone, you'll end up ultimately with an 85km drone control range, which is frankly disgusting. Very powerful drones as well. Obviously you're only launching 2 drones into space at a time, but thanks to the roll bonus and the advanced large drone operation, essentially those 2 drones are acting as if they were 10, plus 500% onto what is already there, 5 times the 2 drones we've already got. Advanced Battleship Command gives us an increase of 10% to our missile torpedo kinetic damage and 10% missile torpedo thermal damage. This means any missiles or torpedoes, it doesn't affect the overall DPS, just the kinetic and the thermal, and the explosive and the electromagnetic are untouched, and I'll showcase that when we come to fitting if you don't quite understand what's going on. Finally here as well is the 4% increase to shield resistance. Having Advanced Battleship Command at 5, 20% additional shield resistance on top of an already tanky shield tank makes this ship just, as I said, it is one of those ships that just takes an absolute beating before you even start to hear the sirens saying that you're getting low on your shields. It is not an easy ship to take down by any stretch, and that's kind of what gives it the power to do that whole AFKing T10 Storyline missions. With 7 blasted low slots, and obviously with missiles being an incredibly versatile weapon system, there are obviously going to be a lot of different ways to fit a Rattlesnake. This is just my personal favourite, the one that I've enjoyed the most, and I've been using in the T10 Storyline missions. As I said, fairly AFK, like literally just checking over and checking my phone from time to time just to see that I'm still alive, and without fail, that has been the case. Now, obviously, the Rattlesnake is very much a drone ship. I'm doing this on the test server, the Fulmination test server. This means I have 5 in every single skill. If I were to go across to the skill menu here, you'll see that every single skill in the game is maxed out on this character. This is a private test server. Obviously, that gives me no benefit in life, but that means I'm at full missile skills and full drone skills. And you can see here that the missile DPS and the drone DPS, ultimately the drone DPS more than doubles the missile DPS. So no matter what happens, drones are the main source of damage here from the Rattlesnake. And I've started this with 2 sentry drones, although you'll see that in the drone bay I do have 2 standard drones as well, just in case. Now, sentry drones are a little bit different to your everyday standard drone. They don't fly around, they don't actually attack a target, fly around it and orbit it like a little fighter pilot. These are similar to the kind of drones that you see around space stations and gates. Essentially, they all have, whether it's a Mark 7 Warden, a Mark 7 Guard, the Caldari, the Galente, whichever type of drone it is, they all have that same DPS at each level. So Mark 7s will all have that 27.95 DPS. They are stationary drones. The difference between the different types like Caldari and that is, as with other drones, mainly its damage type. You can see here 112 in kinetic for the Caldari Mark 7 Warden, whereas the Bouncer, which is the Minmatar one, will be 112 into explosive, that kind of thing. They also differ down here when it comes to optimal range, accuracy fall-off, and tracking speed. Now you'll see that the flight velocity and orbital speed of these is all at 0. They then have a difference in optimal range, accuracy, fall-off, and tracking speed. In this case, the Caldari Warden is my personal favourite for the Rattlesnake, and you'll see why later, because it has that insane optimal range of 60 kilometers with a solid accuracy fall-off of 42 meters as well. That means you can plant one of these and it will shoot at anything that is ultimately within 144 kilometers. Anything within 100 kilometers, you're dealing more than 50% damage, and if you're sitting there at the 60 kilometer mark, you're doing the full 100% damage from the drones, which, as you can already see, is an absolutely insane 1,281.89 DPS. It's a lot of damage from 2 drones, and obviously carry spares. I'm just showcasing here for PvE that I only need 2 sentry drones, and I've got 2 standard drones in there as well in case I want something that flies around. Now, because of this, these are going to be incredibly long-range drones. Even the large missile launchers don't have close to the same range that I'm pulling here. 85-kilometer drone control range, none of the missiles can get close to that. But we saw that those sentry drones have incredibly low tracking speed. I mean, heck, if you look at the Warden here, it's 0.02. If you've looked at something like large beam lasers and thought that they had abysmal tracking, 0.02. Just, it almost hurts to look at. Terrible tracking speed, very good at shooting at things that are far, far away, that have no angular velocity relative to them whatsoever, but as soon as something starts getting close, that's where the problems lie. So I've gone for closer range and the ability to hit smaller ships using rapid missile launchers here, large rapid missile launchers, a full brace of PIF C-type large rapid missile launchers. Obviously, these don't do quite as much damage as large missiles or even torpedoes, but they are much better at hitting those smaller, faster moving targets, thanks to a higher explosion velocity and a lower explosion radius than the large missile launchers are. This means these are good at taking out those smaller, faster ships that otherwise might get underneath your sentry drones. It's kind of giving yourself both sides of the equation to deal with here. Whereas some ships have big cannons and then have a small little drone on the side to help if anything gets too close, this we've kind of done it the other way around. The drones are for hitting the big things at range, and our missiles are there to deal with anything that gets a little bit too close to us. Now, in order to assist with this as well, for the mid slots, I've gone for a warp scrambler. This allows me, obviously, to switch off the micro warp drive of any enemy that gets within 15 kilometers. Obviously, the higher version of the warp scrambler you can get, the better, because you're getting that increased optimal range. But even if you can only fit like a Mark 7 on here, that is still going to be beneficial because it will allow you to switch off those micro warp drives, dropping a ship from insane speeds down to its standard flight velocity. at which point you then take over with a Predator stasis weather fire and drop their flight velocity down by a further 61%. That is basically the equivalent of grabbing an enemy ship and sending it screeching to a halt. Instead of it moving at say 4,000 meters per second, it turns off the micro warp drive, it's now moving at 600 meters per second, you then hit it with this, it's now moving at 200 meters per second. 200 meters per second all the way down from 4,000. It's a big difference and allows you to do so much more damage. This is when a Halley target painter then comes into the equation here again, and again it doesn't matter which type of target painter you go for. Obviously the higher meta level the better, because you get the extra range and the extra signature radius adjustment, but the idea here is that those smaller targets, whilst they're at range, I can increase their signature radius. That will help my sentry drones, and it will help with my rapid missiles applying their damage too, allowing me to hit those targets whilst they're on the approach, before I even need to put on the Warp Scrambler or the Stasis Weapon Fire. It allows me to help deal with those frigates and those destroyers. Now, the massive 7 low slots, again, this is my fit. There are lots of different ways you can do this, but I've gone for the fit that you see here. The most important parts of this, for me at least, are the large micro warp drive. I've gone for a GIST C-type large micro warp drive. This allows me to relocate from A to B nice and quickly. Ultimately, the Rattlesnake is such a big ship that speed tanking or trying to even negate damage via like an afterburner is just pointless. We don't even care that this thing makes us 413% bigger on the signature radius, because our signature radius is so big that nothing's going to miss anyway. We just use this, we switch it on to blast to a particular position, we then switch the micro warp drive off, sit there, and we don't even bother orbiting. You just sit in position, hit your opponent with everything you have, and then relocate if you need to. You'll see that in example later. The second two on the low slots here, I've gone for Nestworm drone damage amplifiers. Obviously, whatever drone damage amplifier you can get hold of, these stack to just give an additional amount of damage to the drones. Having them fitted gives me a 5% increase to the damage bonus of drones and reduces the activation time of those drones by 4.3%. I can then activate it for a bigger boost. Now, 2 of these, you do get a stacking penalty, and if you go for a third one, I don't honestly recommend a third one, because the amount of bonus that you get from a third one is so minimal that you can probably just get more out of having other modules fitted. But I've gone for 2. 2 seems like a good midway point where the second one isn't getting too much of a penalty. Means we're getting a nice DPS here, as I said, 1,281.89 DPS just from the drones. You could put in something like a ballistic control system there to help your missiles out a bit, but again, when looking at the Rattlesnake, you can clearly see the difference between the drone DPS and the missile DPS. I would rather just fit modules that are going to affect my drones and use the missiles as secondary. Now, capacitor on the ship does take a bit of a beating, so I've gone for a GIST C-type large capacitor battery to help me deal with that. This just means I've got a bigger capacitor naturally by having it fitted, and I can activate it to inject a quick boost of gigajoules into my capacitor, helps me recharge, or if I need to activate something and I'm otherwise a bit low on capacitor, this just allows me to do that. Very useful little panic button. Now we come to the tank section. Obviously this is a shield tank ship. I've gone for a Pith C-type large shield booster in order to repair any damage that the shields take, and we have 2 C-type adaptive invulnerability fields. These 2 stacked on top of the Rattlesnake's innate shield bonuses makes for an incredibly tanky ship. When I undock this, I will showcase how heavy the resistances on this ship become with both of those active, at which point you're sitting usually 80 to, however far away from your target, you're taking less damage anyway, and what damage does hit you is then massively reduced by your resistances, and what little passes through the resistances is then repaired with the shield booster. In regard to the rigs then, long breath here, we are then fitting into a drone firepower rig, a drone firepower augmenter. I want to point out here, it says the ship modification is designed to increase a ship's sentry drone damage. That is a mistype. It affects all types of drones, sentry drones or standard drones. It doesn't matter which, you are getting an increase to the damage to your drones, whether they're sentry or otherwise. 17.5% increase to drone damage. The The second two rigs I've gone for are both drone speed augmenters. This is again a little bit confusing in its design, in its naming here. Drone speed makes it sound like it just makes your drones faster. The description though points out the ship modification is designed to enhance drone firing speed, and we can guarantee, we've done tests on this, it showcases here, if you are putting this on, your drones activate faster, they fire faster. This is like a burst aerator for any other weapon system or a bay loading accelerator if you're using missiles. The idea here is we've gone for extra drone damage and faster firing drones as well. Both sides of the DPS equation, extra damage. Theoretically, if you wanted to, if you want to go just a little bit safer, you can change that second drone speed augmenter, the third power grid rig there, to something like a shield booster, one that makes your shields even bigger, or reduces the capacitor requirement of having a shield generator active, at which point if you have the one that reduces the amount of capacitor to activate your shield booster, you can almost indefinitely go AFK. You just kind of hit the shield booster as soon as you start taking any form of damage and go AFK, knowing that it's not going to chew your capacitor as much. That said, I prefer to have the little bit of extra damage because I believe in that whole thing. The best way to survive is to kill your opponent first. For the mechanical rigs then, we've got a targeting system subcontroller. This was one of the first considerations I put on here. Looking through the Rattlesnake's stats and seeing that absolutely abysmal scan resolution, I knew that I needed to rig a little bit of an improvement there. This takes it from like 5 minutes to lock onto something to like 3 minutes. Okay, it's not that bad. It's about 30 seconds to lock onto the smallest of frigates, but still it feels like an absolute age when you're used to piloting frigates. Targeting system subcontroller lets you lock onto things that little bit faster. The faster you can lock onto something, the faster you can begin shooting. Hopefully then you can shoot it before it gets too close. That's the idea. Auxiliary thrusters, flight velocity adjustment. This twins with our micro warp drive to help us relocate across the battlefield that little bit faster. Ultimately, we activate the micro warp drive. Obviously, a micro warp drive is giving me a 500% increase to the speeds. This is on top of the 20% here, so 20%, 500% on top of that. You do the math. It's a big increase to the micro warp drive speed that allows us to relocate very quickly if things get a bit tough. Semiconductor memory cell. This is the rig that is, again, up to you and your choice. This, to me, is just to make things a little bit more comfortable in regards to my capacitor. This increases the size of the capacitor, and thus with it increases the capacitor recharge rate also. But again, here you could put things like a dynamic fuel valve to reduce the amount of capacitor required to activate the micro warp drive. You could even put a second targeting relay on there just to help you lock on that little bit faster. But I've gone for the semiconductor power grid there to get that little bit extra stability on the capacitor. 5 minutes 7 seconds with everything running. Obviously the micro warp drive is not going to be running at all times. It's going to be rare that we have the micro warp drive going, but it just means 5 minutes 7 seconds if we were to leave everything running at once. Now, I said I was going to undock to showcase activating some of these modules and how this affects the Rattlesnake. First of all, we'll have a look at those adaptive invulnerability fields. So if we're looking at the Rattlesnake's defense so far, you can see 149,214 effective hit points across the board, 46,622 there on the shield. So if we close that down and we activate both of those adaptive invulnerability fields, they're now pumping in additional resistances to our shields. If we jump back now to the fitting screen, open up the defenses, you'll see we've rocketed up to 225,320. That is a monstrous amount of hit points, and you can see the resistances here: 65% on electromagnetic, 75% thermal, 79% on kinetic, and 83% resistance on explosive. That gives a total effective hit points there on the shields, 46,622. That, as I said, is utterly monstrous. Next up then, let's have a look at what happens with those drone damage amplifiers. Now, we've seen that the drone DPS standard is 1281.89, with a total DPS here, if I'm in range with the missiles and the drones, of 1885.16. Now, if I were to activate both of these drone damage controllers and then jump back into the fitting menu, holy heck, 2,568.1. 1,964.82 DPS from the drones. That is terrifying. I would not want to be going up against this thing if I were, crikey, just anything. Now, to talk briefly then about sentry drones. As we've said, sentry drones don't move. That means if you tap a sentry drone, you drop it exactly where your ship is at that point in time, and you can see as I'm drifting away, I drift further and further from those drones. This means that you kind of plant them in position and then they fire from there. You'll see that when it comes to the combat demonstration in just a moment, I have a very clever tactic that uses that to our advantage and allows us to still use our missiles, even though they are the shorter range rapid missiles, against our targets. From here, obviously, we can long press and we can return all, and these will then come back to the ship, theoretically at least. At the start of this video, I teased that the Rattlesnake was practically capable of AFKing T10 Storyline encounters, and I feel that I kind of need to back that up. That's quite the claim to make, so here I am jumping into Bad Hair Day Part 1 with the Rattlesnake. I'm jumping in at 100 kilometers distance, just sorting out putting my battery there onto the back page because there's not enough space for it all on one, and here we are 100 kilometers away into the encounter. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do once I drop to a speed capable of actually performing actions is to drop both of my sentry drones. They are both there behind me now. I'm now going to lock onto absolutely everything, and you will see how abysmally slow it is to lock onto things. I mean, look at how long that Condor is taking to lock on. 3/4 of the way. And there we go, finally. So now I'm going to actually start to fire. At 77 kilometers away, they are in range of the sentry drones, and as you can see, that tracking speed doesn't matter because they have almost no angular velocity. I just want to sit here and showcase this for a while using just the drones. There we go, there goes the Cormorant. We're going to move on to another Condor, and again, just the drones with a target painter on them. There we go, down goes another Condor, and we can then start onto the Ferox and the Raven and the Moa, and you'll see that these, they are literally the turrets that you see around gates and around stations, and this thing is just blapping away into the distance there. Even against a Ferox, you can see the two of these at 83 kilometer range are still hitting for 2,285 damage per shot. That is a lot of damage. Ultimately though, it's going to get fairly boring me sitting here just AFKing through this, so I am going to sit here and skip ahead to the next wave where we're going to move in a little bit closer and actually bring in the missiles, because I want to showcase where we get the true AFK nature of this particular ship. And that involves us there setting our approach, activating our micro warp drive, and shooting into that range. So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead now, and we'll pick up once I get to that sort of range. We're just coming to the end of the first wave now and moving into wave 2. I've started to drift towards my targets. As you'll see, that means I've got the sentry drones directly behind me and the target fleet straight ahead in front of me. It's important that I keep the target fleet at 12 o'clock and the drones at 6 o'clock as I make this approach. That way the drone tracking speed doesn't actually matter. If anything comes into range here of the Rattlesnake, I'm far enough away from the drones that the angular velocity of anything orbiting me or approaching me is still going to be practically zero, so the drones can take care of it. And you can see quite comfortably, even though it took a long time to lock onto that Condor 2 Interceptor and the Cormorant 2 into the covert ops there, they're still going down like flies. As soon as I get that target painter on them, the drones, even at that extreme range, there you go, see, straight ahead down. I still haven't fired a single missile at this point in the entire encounter. Not a single missile has left my rapid missile launchers. We're slowly beginning to drift towards this group here. Obviously you can see I'm hitting about 800 meters per second thanks to the micro warp drive and me approaching targets, and I'm approaching them one by one. This means I'm not getting there too quickly, but at the same token, I am still making that approach. The drones, as I said, are behind me with no angular velocity at all really to their targets. It's just the signature radius that's proving difficult. So as soon as that target paint is on, you'll see, bam, down goes that Cormorant, and we're now moving on to the Moa. And we should start to approach these towards missile range. Now, the maximum range here of those rapid missiles was around about 35 kilometers. So I've set my approach. Obviously, if you tap onto your ship, you can set your standard approach at whatever you like. I've set that to 35 kilometers. So as long as I'm outside of 35 kilometers, I will move towards that point, and if I'm within 35 kilometers of the target that I've set approach to, it will move me away towards the 35 kilometer point. And you'll see there's the drones in the distance, there's the targets in front of me, so it's like a nice straight line between us. Let's activate those drone damage. Here we are, we're now at the 35 kilometer point. I can start to activate those missiles as well to add some extra damage in order to take these on. You'll see I'm hitting about 31 kilometers. The game recognizes that that's too close, so the approach order then causes me to pull away. I'm going to turn off the micro warp drive as well. We've also got the 2 adaptive invulnerability fields running as we are a bit closer now, and you'll see there, down goes that first ship with no qualms, no worries at all, and we're on to the Raven. Now obviously that Raven is a nice easy target for the drones to hit, it's just fairly far away, and being so far away, obviously it's the accuracy fall off coming into consideration there, so they're not doing their full amount of damage. I'm also outside of the rapid missile range, so I am going to approach towards the Pith Raven Striker there, in order to get my rapid missiles involved as well. And once we hit about the 35-34 kilometers, voila, I can reactivate those rapids, and away we go. Now, once this is set up at this kind of range, this is where we start to essentially just go AFK. I kind of keep a half eye on this to see if I need to activate my shield booster, or if anything's getting a little bit too close and I need to pull away using the micro warp drive. But other than that, the ship just does everything we need to. Those 2 drones in the distance are blapping away nice and effectively, and as things get closer, those drones will just help me pick them off, whilst the rapid missiles there deal the rest of the damage. Now I'm going to set that default there to 32 kilometers, because obviously if I'm sitting at 35 kilometers and my maximum range is 35 point something, it means I may drift just over that maximum. At 32, I'm guaranteed to stay, well, pretty much guaranteed to stay within it. So here we go, that Raven Striker is now in hull. Hopefully we'll get that down in a matter of moments, and we'll be able to move on to wave 3. And you'll see that I then have pretty much the whole system set up to AFK. Now, again, I'm just going to turn the shield booster on for a few cycles, just to top up the shield, because, oh, I've taken so much damage to that shield. It's terrifying how low I am. In fairness, the worst problem here is that invariably I tend to forget that I've got the shield booster active, and I get on with the next bit, and I'm sitting there at full 100% shield with the shield booster active, so I am going to turn that off now. Next wave is spawning, so we are going to lock onto everything. I don't know what I was doing there with the drones. Let's tap those. Lock onto all of our targets. Oh look, something has scrambled me. I've got 2 missile disruptors, and I've got 2 Nosferatus and a web of fire. Oh no, whatever will I do? Well, first off, I'm going to target that Pithy Cormorant Interdictor, or Covert Ops, whichever one it is. Blap, down that goes. Onto the next target, which is going to be the Condor 2 there. It's at 4 kilometers away, so I've got all of my mid slots to slow it right the heck down. We'll activate the drones and the missiles, and again, blap, down that goes very quickly. And you see I'm actually auto-targeting just to the nearest thing now. So this is the point where, theoretically, I can kind of go AFK. I just need to make sure everything's running. There we go. Once everything's running, as soon as something dies, it'll just automatically swap to the next target. And you'll see that essentially all I do now is just kind of turn the camera to keep an eye on things. That's it. That's the setup. We are now at a point where I can activate those drone damage whenever I fancy. 72% capacitor. I've still got the drones behind me pretty much in a straight line. They're 75 kilometers away, so they are outside of optimal range at this point, but they're still capable of doing good damage, and with that tracking speed, there's no angular velocity on any of the ships that are coming towards me, so they're doing good damage from behind me. The missiles are doing good damage to anything coming close, and I don't have to worry about the drones traveling between targets because I'm using sentries. And again, I can just top up my shields every now and then with that shield booster, and that really is it. That is literally how the rest of this fight goes. Even the elite ships that spawn in the next wave, well, okay, let's jump ahead, because I know some of you have a go at me if I do skip the elite waves. Okay, and Wave 2 is about to end. There goes that Raven Striker. Here comes Wave 3, and this is one of the ones that has some elites in it. So I just want to showcase that this is not at all even scary. Again, we start to lock onto everything, and you'll see that the elite here, when I find it on the list, where are you? Elite Pithy Condor. There we are. I need to drop something off. There it is, locking on. You see how absolutely terrifyingly slow it is to lock on to that Elite Pithy Condor 2. Oh no, I've been scrambled. Oh no, I've got 4 guidance disruptors on me, and I've got 2 Nosferatus and a web. I'm just going to have to keep shooting things, aren't I? So we're going to try and lock onto that Condor 2 there. We've got the Elite Pithy Condor, and we've got that Cormorant. That Cormorant's already down to... I don't know why I turned off that Cormorant. What on earth am I doing? I was trying to take that one out. I've got it right the way down to hull. The pilots there are going, what's he doing? And no, I didn't mean to unlock it. Oh, those Cormorant pilots must think I'm toying with them right now. Oh well, there we are. I'm hitting that Condor 2. We've got all of my mid slots on it there, so it is scrambled, so it's got no micro warp drive. It's got no flight velocity. Blap, down it goes, onto that Cormorant. 4 kilometers away, blap, down that one goes. It just... Let's lock onto some of the others. Let's move on to the Elite Pithy Condor 2 Interceptor there. Being an elite. Okay. Zoom the camera in a little bit. I haven't even put... Notice I haven't put the Warp Scrambler on it or the Stasis Webifier. This is just my drones and missiles casually taking that out from range. Okay, they don't hit often, so let's put the Scrambler and the Webifier on just to make sure. There we go. We're going to blap it. We're going to blap it. We're going to blap it. It's just a matter of when. 14 kilometers away. It's not as close as I would anticipate. Obviously, there we are. And then we've got the Elite. There's another Elite I think I saw here. Yeah, we are. The Elite Pithy Condor. And there's another Elite Pithy Condor there as well. And that's one of the ones doing the guidance disruptors. There's quite a few elites in this wave, but you can see I'm barely taking any damage whatsoever. I don't even care that I'm scrambled. It's like, oh well, I'll just get to you eventually, whichever one it is that's scrambling me. And the game is pretty much just auto-targeting to the next closest target, at which point it automatically starts shooting the drones and my missiles, and well, everything dies. It's pretty much AFK. I'm watching it just to make sure that it is working, but if you're one of those mobile gamers that likes to play idle games, basically the Rattlesnake is that. You just kind of watch the screen and occasionally press buttons if required. Otherwise, that's literally it. And oh crikey, I'm actually taking some damage here, so we are going to use the shield booster. And I will keep the camera going, just because, again, some people have accused me of switching off the camera in previous videos when the going was getting tough. Still pretty much AFK here, you'll see, running the shield booster. We are taking out the Elite Pithy Raven that's got me scrambled and has a guidance disruptor on. Obviously the guidance disruptor is affecting the damage that my rapid missiles can do, so the Elite Pithy Raven is going to be next on the list. And you can see it's taking a bit of time to get through because the blasted thing has a shield extender. I hate the enemies that have shield extenders. They just take so long. It's infuriatingly long to just sit there and slowly chip through the shield, only to, boom, there goes a whole load more shield. And it's like, oh, I've got to sit and chip through that all again. Oh, it just takes its time. It takes its time. Look, okay, you can see my shield is not dropping really below the 50% mark here. We're quite happy slowly pulling this down. It's just taking time, and I'm a little bit aware that this video is already getting on to quite the lengthy video. So I'm going to start to wrap this up here. You can see that we are pretty much AFKing through this T10 Storyline anomaly. You just need to keep an eye on the screen, make sure that you are hitting the right targets, and that you activate and deactivate your shield booster as required, and pull away to safety if required using the micro warp drive. It's that simple. Get it set up right, and the Rattlesnake AFK's T10 Storyline encounters. Anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions regarding the Rattlesnake and the other faction battleships in the comment section below. Good luck with the giveaway. If you haven't entered already, do make sure that you get in. Obviously, that is closing on this Friday. If you are watching this in the future, be aware of the date the video came. If it's after the Friday after this video, then unfortunately the competition has now closed. Anyway, good luck to all of you who are entering. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.